This episode is brought to you by BeWaterSmart.info. Is your yard summer strong? A summer strong yard is tough enough to take the heat and still look its best. Here's 2 ways to help. First, replace your thirsty lawn with native and low water use plants and install drip irrigation and high efficiency rotor sprinklers. You'll use less water and have a healthier, happier yard. Second, here's how to help your trees grow strong enough to handle the summer heat. First, check the soil with a moisture meter or screwdriver to see if it's dry. If you need a water, set up a soaker hose or drip irrigation at the outer edges of the tree's branches. Water your trees at least once a month. Find more helpful tips and videos at bewatersmart.info.
Look at that plant. I want you to know that everything was grown in my garden. Don't touch that plant!
Is it poisonous?
She'll become part of the plant.
Hi everyone, welcome to Flower Power Garden Hour. I'm your host Marlene, and this is your September Garden To-Do episode. So joining me, of course, will be Joe. Joe, say hello.
Hello.
Okay. So actually, when this episode airs, I will not be here. If everything goes smoothly, I will be hiking the John Muir Trail. And that is a 210-mile trail starting north to south in Yosemite and ends at the top, technically at the top of Mount Whitney, but then you have to go hike all the way down. And we had some false starts, some changes because this is an epic year doing it. So hopefully everything is going smooth. I don't want to tell you, Joe, that you know how I wasn't working on my garden and I wasn't running and I'm trying to keep my body healthy. But remember how I cleaned up the whole back cat house?
Yeah.
Yeah, I pulled my back out. And I've been dealing with my back being pulled out the last few days.
I don't know what to tell you.
I don't know what to say either. So I'm just...
Yeah. You did a number of things that I found questionable.
Really? Like what?
All right. You were changing your shoes. All of a sudden, I asked you one day, I'm like, are those new inserts that you have in your shoes? You're like, yes. And I tried them and they don't work.
Yeah, I just tried them one day.
Why would you try them? Why are you making changes from a biomechanical standpoint so close? The fact that you got new shoes this close. And you tried new shoes. You tried to buy an entire pair of new shoes, a new model, a new brand.
Joe, can we go back to how I hurt my back? Can we go back there?
No, because the genesis of why you hurt your back relates to everything I'm talking about here.
You should have cleaned the cat house in the back. Else, you should have said, you know what? I don't want you doing that. You're going to hurt your back. I'm going to do it for you.
I was busy doing other things.
And then you could have still said, why are you changing your shoes? And I still stand. I fell on my butt 3 times on my last previous one, slipping. I need tread. Anyway, so
why would you try an entire new shoe, a new brand, new everything?
Joe.
And did they work?
I like to live dangerously.
Dangerously is one word.
Dangerous. Okay, let's stay with that word. Okay. So if you're listening to this in beginning of September, whenever Joe gets it out, hopefully I am halfway through, partly through. Depends on when Joe gets this launched. And okay, I do want to do a shout out. Remember last month I launched Patreon Flower Power Garden Hour. It if you pledge, it's going to help support just behind the scenes stuff at the podcast, like hosting fees.
Okay,
no,
that's stuff. Not. It's only for the cats.
It's the cat stuff.
It's only for the 9 million
cats.
Feral cats.
Yeah, because you brought home a cat the other day.
Yeah. So I brought home a cat.
Yeah. So at 1 in the
morning. Not easily.
Yeah, I know. 1 in the morning, we put so we got a cat from Good Day Sacramento, not fixed, an orange one. It's been hanging out. Brought it home, put it in a trap, and you have to get to the SPCA in Sac early on. And you get there at 1. You weren't even first in line this time.
No, there was a woman in an RV.
Smart.
I was impressed.
Yes. And you were worried how many people she had in there. Different cats.
I wasn't that worried.
Because they take the first 10.
Yeah.
Anyway, so 1 o'clock, you left. You got there pretty early. And then I passed you because you came home real quick. And then you were on your way to get cat food. And then you text me, I'm coming home. There's a lady with a flat tire. I'm going to help her with a flat tire. And she also told me she just lost her housing and she's keeping her cat in a storage unit. And it was like over 100 that day. And I just wrote, oh my God, is the cat even alive? And, we both knew you were going to get the cat somehow, no matter what. I mean, I hate to steal a cat from a lady, but she has to know.
She was happy. When I brought it up.
Yeah, you brought it up.
Yeah, I said, hey, my crazy cat wife effectively has a cat rescue society.
Mm-hmm.
I would call it a non-profit.
But we get no tax incentives. Yeah.
No.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a sump.
So you followed her to the
So she was very happy. She said, yes, that would be fantastic if you could take Bandit.
Bandit. Yes. And then you followed her to the town over, about 20 minutes away.
Yeah.
And you almost had to climb around in the storage unit.
Almost.
You did climb around in the storage unit.
I was deep inside the storage unit.
Okay. And you found Bandit came to you.
No. Okay, Bandit did not come to me.
You had to go get Bandit.
I had to grab Bandit by the scruff.
Yes.
And pull him out.
And put him in a carrier.
Okay.
All right.
Yep.
That's good. So you had a very busy cat day that day.
Just amazing.
So I got 3 cats that week. Anyway, so yes, the Patreon is to support spay and neutering and fixing and rehoming, even if they're at our house, even if we keep them because we can't find homes for them. So I actually wanted to give a shout out because it was Rex and Lisa. And I'm not going to use Lisa's last name in case she doesn't want to. So thank you for signing up for Patreon. And, right now you just get the joy of supporting the cats. But one day, maybe I'll throw out a bonus episode. But yeah, so just go to Patreon at Flower Power Garden Hour. So let's get going with this.
I've always wanted to do, I thought, the spinoff. Well, I don't know if we could do a spinoff.
Spinoff of what?
Podcast.
Of this one?
Yeah.
What would it be?
The cat cast.
Yeah.
And we could just do an episode.
There's a per cast.
Whatever.
Yeah.
We could just do an episode per cat.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Because it would never be ending.
Oh my God, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Every week.
It would.
Well, we would have endless cats, but then also they live their life and they constantly have new.
I know.
Oh my God, let's do that.
I mean, we can do it easily 20 minutes per cat.
Is that like people talking about their kids and they think it's just wonderful and great and everyone wants to hear about it?
No, there's insane people out there that like to listen to weird stuff. You listen to murders.
Well, I don't think it's weird. I mean, we think our cats are wonderful and they're great, but I'm like, does that put us on the same path as like people who would like, this week we're going to talk about Johnny and how Johnny said got a student of the week.
We have 30 plus cats. We're on a worse path.
Good point. We have none of them are going to take care of us when we're older.
We are on an unexplored path.
Okay. All right. I'll just warn people, if you don't like the chit chat ahead of time, always just, hit that 15-second loop ahead. I do that on a lot of podcasts to get to the murder part. All right. So I'm going to talk about what to do in September. In theory, zone 9. Remember, I'm coming at this from zone 9, which is my zone. You may be in a different zone. Check your zone. Some things will carry over. Other things might be completely different. So in theory, September is when it starts cooling down. And I swear, everyone's like, oh, it's fall. It's fall. Just because school started does not mean it is fall. It is still August. When I was a kid, school didn't start until after Labor Day. But September, I almost split September up into 2 days. It's sort of like beginning of September, you could still have a lot of heat. End of September is sort of when you're on that downward spiral. But last year, September stayed pretty warm. So obviously monitor temperatures for some of this. But no matter what, veggie planting. By seeds, you could plant beets, carrots, celery, Swiss chard, collards, garlic, leeks, lettuce, loose leaf lettuce, peas, radish, and spinach. And for plants, you could put your broccoli, Brussels sprouts, and cauliflower cabbage as plants in there if you could find them. So this is your fall vegetables, and this is when to plant them. So I know it's really difficult. Some people are like, but my tomatoes are still producing. And it's true. You could sneak some of those beets and carrots and even loose leaf lettuce underneath your tomatoes. But hopefully, you could put some of the broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cauliflower. They'll go in a half wine barrel, a 15-gallon pot. So, and then, seriously, squash. Do you need more squash? And a lot of these vegetables are starting to fade out. Yes, they could still produce just fine, but usually zucchini squash is the first plant I take out. It's the first one to produce. It's the first one to sort of just start looking bad. And you're like, okay, I don't need it anymore. So I pull that out. Sometimes this time of year, your veggies might be getting hit by whiteflies. I know I have this leaf hopper that showed up last year and it's this year, and I could definitely tell because the skin on my tomatoes, I don't see them. The skin on my tomatoes is more leathery. Whiteflies are very tough. So I just say take a hose, blast the top, blast the underside. You're trying to get the whole different generations of the eggs and the adults. So this time of year, you might be seeing a lot of pests forming. So usually your hose is your best friend. So you want to do clean up. And that means if you're pulling out veggies, pull out all the old vegetables and the roots. If you have any suspect of diseases going on, your fruit trees, pull off all the fallen fruit on the ground or on the plant. You don't want mummies, that's shriveled up fruit, because that harbors overwintering bad pests. It's time to plant almost all perennials you could plant. I would wait till the end of September when it cools down consistently. This is a great time. Remember, the soil temperatures are warm enough to get those roots established, but the daytime temperatures aren't so hot that it's stressing the plant. Even some of your frost-sensitive plants you could plant now because they'll get established by the time the frost comes. So like your citrus and certain salvias, where if you get too far into the fall, I would say hold off until spring. And prune your lavender. So you might have harvested your flowers, but now would be a good time to prune them down. So you remember, you don't want to prune into any wood material. Prune your hydrangeas. And that means that you just are removing the spent flowers. You're cutting the old canes all the way down to the ground. No need to cut all the way down to the ground for your plant. That's not necessary. And so just doing a little tidy pruning of everything. Make sure any suckers that are coming up, you're pruning those. Continue to deadhead your annual flowers because it's still warm enough. They're still going to produce. You could harvest seeds from them as well. And so that's about it. So it's definitely a transition month. And mine's looking like a big mess because I haven't done anything because I'm trying to not hurt myself. I should have worked in the garden and not cleaned the back house. Yeah.
I have a question and statement.
Okay.
I've noticed a decrease in the number of vegetables coming in.
Yeah, because I just haven't been harvesting them.
So is there stuff out there to harvest?
Yeah, there's plenty. In fact, when I'm gone, I told a lot of students just to come and harvest. So they're going to come and harvest.
Okay. All right.
I must say this year, I'm just not, I think because my mind's elsewhere. Oh my God, there's so many peppers, so many tomatoes, so many melons, so many.
So speaking of peppers, what are they called?
It's just shishito ones I planted this year. I purposely did just those. There's other peppers. Yeah. There's some hot peppers out there.
The shishito peppers are really good.
Yeah, I know you like those. That's why there's tons of them out there.
Yes. Okay. All right.
I guess I should show you.
You should show me.
Yes.
Yes. Because on our last podcast.
Oh, yes, I know. I said I was going to go cook you some afterwards.
Yes. And what happened?
I didn't, Joe.
That's all I wanted to make sure of.
And did you actually believe that?
No, and I called it out on the podcast, and you're like, yeah. Of course I will.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's got to look good, but of course I wasn't going to. That's silly, Joe. I'll show them to you. They're there. You could pick them, and you could do what you want with them. All right. Should we get some questions going? Yeah, but I just haven't been picking. I don't know. This year's just been a little weird. My mind's not there.
First question's from Bonnie. Can you tell me if the little things attached to this oak leaf are anything I should worry about?
So,
what do they look like?
Yeah, so I get a lot of questions, and of course there's pictures. So I'm going to post the pictures on Instagram and Facebook when this episode launches, but I'll describe them. They look like little red cones on the leaves of almost always oaks. And this time of year, people just send them in to me, and they're quite pretty, actually. So it is what you would expect. It's the oak cone or the red cone gall. So it is a gall. So it's a microscopic wasp. The female will lay her eggs inside the leaf, and usually it's of the valley oak or a blue oak or a white oak. And then, of course, when she lays her eggs in there, she's injecting some hormones, and that's going to mix with the plant hormones, and it's going to form the cone that's usually red, and it looks like a miniature Hershey's Kiss, but red. And that's where the other wasps, the next generation of wasps, are going to overwinter because it's high in protein. And then the adult wasps are going to emerge from there. Now, we're talking tiny microscopic wasps here. It's not like the wasps that we think of when they sting you. So you're not even going to see them. And no, even though they're all over the leaves, they're not going to harm the plant. And it's very seasonal and it's benign to the plant. And they're actually quite pretty. So there's a whole bunch of different galls. Some people might be familiar with the brown ones that look like, half an inch to an inch round brown ball. And others look like they have horns on them. So there's various types, but it's all sort of the idea. And there's even the jumping ones. So it's the idea that they're home for wasps. Almost never cause problems for the plant. And they're just sort of pretty.
What's the benefit for the plant?
There is no benefit.
I mean, well, there can't be a detriment.
No,
I would argue that, for this. So the way that this is working, you're saying that the wasp is injecting
commensalism,
some sort of hormone in, and this cone is made by, secreted by the plant?
Yeah, it's just basically, it's like when a plant injects something and it forms like a mutation, but it's a benign.
Okay.
So there's something called commensalism.
Okay.
Where there's no give or take for the host plant. So I'm going to say that possibly the plant is hurt a tiny bit because leaves can defoliate a little bit sooner, but with a large, mature, healthy tree, it could handle that. So it's not a parasitism at all. It's not taking necessarily resources from it because it's sort of creating that gall and creating its own proteins, as far as I know, and its own house. It's not mutualistic at all. The tree's not getting anything from the wasp. It's not like it's protecting them from pests. It's not helping with pollinators. Maybe it's warding off pests a tiny bit, but I don't know if studies have been done. So I would say it's more commensalism. The wasps are getting something and the tree's just there going, okay.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
So I always tell kids on tours. I say, right when you're young.
You didn't make up that word, did you?
Commensalism?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
It's an actual word, Joe.
All right. Just making sure.
Yeah. Anyways, I tell kids you don't want to be a parasite. And when you get older, you might actually have a mutualistic relationship with your parents. But right now, you're just a parasite. And they look at me like, what? I'm like, yeah. Okay, next.
All right. I'm still thinking about the wasp one a little bit.
I know. You
All
think
right.
about that.
Oh, boy. All right. This is from Carmel.
Mm-hmm.
Capital K-A-R, no space, capital M-E-L.
No.
Carmel.
Yeah. Do you say caramel or do you say, well, like this, you won't say caramel, but when you say caramel, like the candy, there's always is it caramel or is it caramel?
I don't know.
Okay. Anyways.
All right. Well, good morning. A few questions about my Venus flytrap. Does it require specific soil to replant it? There are a few dead leaves. I'd like to know if there's a reason for this.
Okay. Yeah, they're fairly easy to grow once all the conditions are met, but the conditions are quite finicky. So yes, they're carnivorous plants. They grow in the bogs of North Carolina, freshwater bogs, and so their soil, which we grow at the conservatory, is basically peat moss, no fertilizer. So peat moss, which is sphagnum moss milled up very fine. And then we add perlite to it. So you do not want to put it in potting soil. You do not want to put it in anything that has nutrients in it because they're in a very poor nutrient soil because the water has leached out all the nutrients. So peat moss, about a 50-50. Peat moss and perlite, which usually you can find at most nurseries. And then, of course, you submerge them in pure water because that water is also pure. So deionized, reverse osmosis, rainwater. Leaves dying back, that's totally normal. The traps are leaves. They're seasonal. They're going to die. But if a Venus flytrap the leaves are dying quicker, probably means someone's triggering them to close, and it takes a lot of energy and it's going to kill them very fast. So normally, you're going to have seasonal leaves. In fact, in the wintertime, they go completely deciduous. They go dormant. You put them outside, which you should, and they're going to go drop all the leaves. So I wouldn't say right now they're going quite dormant. They're probably just doing normal leaf drop. It's going to be the lower leaves. But if all of them are dropping off, just keep in mind you might be giving them water with too many minerals. The soil might have too much minerals. Of course, don't fertilize them at all. They might not be getting enough light, and you might be triggering them when you're not feeding them. If they're outside, you don't really need to feed them. Even inside, you don't really need to feed them if you have little gnats flying around. So yeah, once those conditions are all set up, then it should be fine. Most people grow them inside and there's not enough light, so they can die off that way. And I really only need to transplant them when they're busting out of the pot. Or unless you have them in bad soil, then get them out of that bad soil. Mm-hmm.
I think I told you the other day that there's been a couple of requests for berry.
Really? A couple? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Poor Sean. Poor Sean.
Berry's in the Star Trek.
Yeah. He just went to the Star Trek convention and brought like 20 different outfits.
Then he's got a lot more to talk about, apparently, than Sean.
Okay.
I'm
yeah,
sorry.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Are we going to talk about Star Trek? Well, Barry?
Talk about a bit of both.
Okay. You wouldn't even know. He's posting people and he's like, oh, this person's from blah, blah, blah show. This person's from blah, blah, blah show.
Yeah, if he's talking
There's
about
no one
new
from
stuff.
any. Oh,
then
yeah.
No.
I think all the older people died. And then the people who were.
What are you talking about?
The only one who's still alive is.
Okay, you're. Never mind. I'm not gonna
not new generation. Yes.
The new generation.
Yeah. Which isn't the new generation anymore.
Maybe that wasn't even the title of it.
Next generation. Whatever. Yeah.
Wow, another name. Okay.
Wow, people
This
have
is
names.
from
Amazing.
Epi. EPI.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yes. Last name Pin.
Shut up.
My gardenias are full, but no buds or flowers. East side of the house.
Okay. Yeah.
Epi's very succinct and to the point.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah. There's
Yeah.
no flowering with Epi, which could be part of the problem here. You know, she's lacking flowers in her gardenia. No, east side. You know, when I hear east side, I think, okay. But then you never know. Is that east side? Is there a big giant shade tree in the way? Is there another wall block in the east side? So always, take the direction, of course, but then also take into surrounding, things into consideration. I will say the best gardenia I see ever growing is in the Safeway shopping center. It's in front of the Rite Aid, right in front of the Rite Aid, in this tiny little planting strip. Full sun. It's facing east, but it gets all day sun until I would say 3 o'clock in the summertime. So think about that. Full sun up until about 3 o'clock is ideal to trigger them to bloom. So a lot of people think, well, they don't want, blazing hot afternoon sun. They don't, but they need more sun than you would think to flower. And of course, stop pruning it. You don't want to, this one they shear and it's still blooming. I'm going to go take cuttings of it. A lot of times people have buds and they don't fully open. That could be because we've got a dry spell. Low air humidity will cause the buds to form, but then not to open. But I'm just wondering if it's not getting enough light even on an east side. So if it's getting only 3 hours of maybe dappled sun, 4 hours of dappled sun, that might not be enough for it to bloom. She says it's full, so I'm thinking it's, it might. But don't prune it. Don't fertilize it. Let it go and see what happens.
Sounds low maintenance. Sounds low maintenance.
No, because if you have high pH, you got to
your
give it.
advice is what I'm
Yes,
saying.
my advice is because
Your advice is wait.
my advice is just because I'm not sure what else she's doing. And I'm wondering if it is light. So without seeing the light conditions, seeing if she's not pruning it, fertilizing it, that's it. Because it sounds like it should be blooming, but possibly the conditions are slightly off from what I'm thinking.
Laura, next question.
My name's Marlene, but thank you.
Can you help me identify this thing? It's flying in my house over my lantana.
Okay, so another one where there's a picture. I'll post it on Instagram and Facebook when this posts.
Just describe it.
It's a big moth.
Okay.
It's a big moth, so it's probably about, 4 inches wide. And usually what will stop you in your tracks is you'll say, hey, look at the hummingbird, and then you'll turn your head sideways and go, huh, that's not a hummingbird. And then you'll go, oh, it's a hummingbird moth. So there are moths that act like hummingbirds. So, most people think of moths as being strictly nocturnal, going for white, fragrant flowers at night, being just sort of this brown, nondescript. But there's a whole bunch of different moths out there. And this one that she sent me is the white lined sphinx moth. So it has sort of pink on it with some white lines. Very pretty. They're in a group called hawk moths. They're also called hummingbird moths. And they're great pollinators. So they're going to pollinate things that hummingbirds are going to pollinate. They love scented flowers. They don't need a landing pad. You're going to see them on all various colors with, they're going after the nectar, but they're great pollinators. Now, the problem is their larvae are quite large caterpillars, and they're all considered hornworms. And I know when most people think hornworms, they think, oh my God, a tomato hornworm. Yeah, that is one of the hawk moths. That one's the 5-spotted hawk moth. Not as, in my opinion, as beautiful, but still quite startling when you see it. Also a great pollinator. And that one you could tell when it's flying because it has 5 spots along its abdomen on the back side. And that is coming from the tomato hornworm, which is on the Solanaceae or on your tomatoes, which could devour your tomato plant completely. So almost all caterpillars, I say, leave be. A plant's going to be able to handle a whole onslaught of them. And for the most part, the hawk moths, they're great pollinators, and they're really pretty. So that's what it is. When I went backpacking this last time, there were tons of them out. So yeah. And there are no hovering birds in South Africa. So everything that you would think when you see something pollinated in South Africa, I think I mentioned this before, like aloes, their hummingbird moths do all the work for them. So they are out at night, but they can be out during the day as well. So they're like you. They're like, oh, I need to do stuff at night. I won't sleep tonight. And I'm going to work all day too.
We talked about those moths before.
Yeah, we have.
I thought that we found that there was some hovering bird or something.
Oh, in South Africa?
South Africa or South America?
South Africa. Of course there's hovering birds. Hummingbirds are from South America.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know then.
Yeah. I don't know either. That must be the other garden podcast you co-host.
Pied kingfishers are the largest hovering bird in South Africa.
What?
Pied kingfishers. It's a big ass bird.
Huh.
Yeah.
Maybe it's too big to pollinate. So maybe there are hovering birds, but maybe too big.
What do you mean too big?
For pollinating.
That doesn't count because it's too big?
No, I meant it may not be maybe too big to pollinate certain of the flowers, like the aloes that have pretty small individual flowers.
I wonder if it actually hovers.
Yeah.
Or if it just, it's a big bird. When I think hover, I think flapping wings.
Yeah.
I wondered if it's just
Keeps
kind of cruising
stationary
through. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Or it just goes up to people and it looks over their shoulder, what they're reading. And that's how it gets its name, hovering bird. It's like, do you have to look over my shoulder, bird? And it's like, oh, no, I'm not. It's like you're hovering.
That's a creeper bird.
Creeper bird?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Was that all the questions? No.
Yeah.
Oh, that was it?
That was all the questions.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. I have some news.
Yeah, you went out of order.
Oh, no. Weren't you supposed to keep me in track?
I've given up on that decades ago.
Decades, good. Ugh. Okay. Just 3 sort of horticultural botany news for this month. Well, this one came out on July 20th, 2023. This is from the Cornell Chronicles. It says, gene variation makes apple trees weep, improving orchards. So I did not know this, but apparently in apple orchards, because we're not a big apple growing region here, is they actually tie down the limbs of the apples to get better production. I don't know exactly how that works, but yes, I guess.
Okay.
So they're saying plant geneticists have identified a mutation in a gene that causes the, quote, weeping architecture, branches growing downwards in apple trees, a finding that could improve orchard fruit production. So for more than a century, growers have tied down apple branches when trees are young in order to improve crop productivity. More research is needed to understand the mechanism for why branch bending improves yields. Okay, good. I was going to say I should know this, but we don't know why. But studies have shown that the practice helps apple trees allocate more resources, such as carbon and other nutrients, toward reproductive growth than towards vegetative growth. So it's like gravity. So the hormones, certain hormones move towards gravity that prevent vegetation, like auxin, right? So I'm guessing it's just what hormones you're sort of moving around and allocating. It says in rare cases, trees are known to naturally grow downward. I just wanted to finish that sentence. Whoa. Yes.
Vegetative growth versus fruit production.
Yeah.
At a certain time of the year, once the fruit production starts in earnest, does vegetative growth slow down?
Yes.
It does?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, does vegetative growth...
I should say there's sort of a yin and a yang, because you will see the fruit forming, but then like a lot of fruit trees will send up a lot of growth once the fruit is sort of getting ripe. So that's why in the summer you could do a secondary pruning, because you have all this growth. So it's not complete no, obviously, because they do grow, but it sort of slows down during that production of the fruit for the most part. It's a big, broad generalization.
But the new vegetative growth that it's putting out is it's not
fruity
off of the existing branches. These are like new branches that are coming out?
Well, no, I mean, they could be, but yeah, a lot of them you could say are possibly side shoots.
That's what I'm talking about, yeah.
Yes.
Interesting.
Okay, let me continue.
Yeah. I would think there's got to be something from a gravitational standpoint, you know?
Well, that's what I said. Hormones. Certain hormones move with gravity, and then so it's a hormone thing.
I'm not sure certain hormones move with gravity. I think they all do. Isn't it all just hydraulic? Is it hydraulic or osmosis? Is it pumped or is it flow?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know. I think it's pressure.
I'm going to go for flow.
Yeah. Well, some of them move in the phloem, which is...
There's your
clue.
You go. I'm thinking. Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, so they basically identify the variation. And of course, what that means now is they're going to be able to modify certain, plants that they're going to do transgenic, and to see if those cultivars are then going to have that gene or going to just naturally, quote, naturally, it depends on your definition of natural, grow downward without being pinned down. So, and this was done by Laura Doherty, I can't pronounce that.
Doherty.
Thank you. PhD from 2019, a former postdoctoral research at Cornell, and currently a research geneticist at the U.S. Department of Agriculture Research Service. So I think she's smart. So I thought that was just interesting.
Yeah. Yep. I like that one.
Yep. So another one that I found, I really like this one, and this one's
I'm ready.
I know, because you think it's going to be.
Well, if you like it,
I know.
It means it's sensational.
Well, okay. I like that one. I picked that one and wasn't sensational.
Yeah.
I just found it interesting.
I know, but you're excited about this one.
I am excited about this one because this one's very actually timely, because I've been getting a lot of questions about leafcutter bees. People going, why are my leaves looking like this? So this time of year, it's there's very distinct half circles taken out of, a lot of times it's roses, but it could be on any plant, but roses are notorious for the leafcutter bees. So they're actually harvesting leaf material to build their nest. And this is from phys.org. It's research sheds light on why leafcutter bees may prefer some leaves over others. So this was out of the University of Arizona. And I think this researcher says a University of Arizona study found that leafcutter bees preferred leaves that harbor the common mold Aspergillus, a type of fungus found indoors and outdoors. The results of the study suggest that the mold could play a role in enhancing the health and survival of leafcutter bees, which are native pollinators of North America and be found in regions where flowering plants grow. So this was presented at the Ecology Society of America's annual meeting in Portland on August 10th. And so Victoria Louisiae started focusing on leafcutter bees. What? I can't pronounce people's names. Louisiae. Luizzi. What would you say that is?
I'm going to go with what you said.
Okay, thank you. She was the lead research on this. And so she basically was just looking at leafcutter bees and going, why are they taking more leaves off of this plant than this other plant? And then, of course, she studied the surface of the leaves and just figured out that certain ones had more aspergillus. So then what she did, of course, is inoculate certain plants with it. And then sure enough, the leafcutter bees chose those over. And so basically you could just, why are they doing that? And obviously there's something to that is beneficial to them. So we never know. I mean, you just see them and you're like, first of all, people are like, why the heck are they doing that? They're chewing my plants. I'm like, no. They're good pollinators. It never harms the plant. It's almost always this time of year. I love seeing it because it's like, looks like a perfect, almost full circle, half circle. And they're great. But then it's just interesting that they're like, nope, not that one. I like this one.
Describe again why it does not harm the plant in any way.
If it's a healthy plant has enough excess leaf material that if it removes just a small amount, that's not going to harm the photosynthesis of the plant. And they're not transmitting any viruses. So a lot of times, the big problem with pests coming to it is not even so much, if you have a sucking insect, of course, it's sucking out all the photosynthates. And the problem is they multiply so quick, and that's their home, that they decimate the plant. Or like we were talking about the caterpillars, the tomato hornworm, one or two could eat a whole entire plant. And then, the plant doesn't have time and resources to overcome that. But a rose plant, if you have, 10, 12 leaves with 10 holes in it, that's completely fine if it's a healthy plant. And they're not, far as I know, they're not bringing any pests into it. They're not virus vectors or anything like that. Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. All right. Last one. Last news story.
I haven't had much pushback on either of these so far.
I know. It's almost like what I'm saying is correct, and there's nothing to correct me. It's almost like that.
No. I mean, there's always,
I know. There's always. There's always ways to exactly. There's always ways to argue with these PhD people who've spent the whole entire lives on this one particular thing, and you've just heard about it for 5 seconds. Yes.
That is exactly who you need to come in because you're not single-mindedly focused.
Are you saying they
100%.
don't see the forest from the trees? Exactly. Do you like that analogy, Joe? Thank you.
Yes.
All right. This is from Science Daily. It says, this is August 11th, 2023. It's out of University of Bern. And it is chemicals from
Do you know
maize.
where that is?
Bern. B-E-R-N.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it's Germany.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we've actually had a layover there. I'm not sure. Chemicals from maize roots influence wheat yield. And this one caught my eye because remember how we did with Matt Amachuchi, PhD. He was sort of involved with that corn out of down in Mexico.
Yeah.
That was actually nitrogen fixing.
Right.
One. So that sort of caught my eye with this because I'm like, wait a minute, this is chemicals from maize, corn roots influence wheat yield. Turns out it's different. So here's the synopsis. Maize roots secrete certain chemicals that affect the quality of soil. In some fields, the effect increases yields of wheat planted subsequent to maize in the same soil by more than 4%. This was proven by researchers from the University of Bern. While the findings from several field experiments show that these effects are highly variable, in the long term, they may yet help to make the cultivation of grains more sustainable without the need of additional fertilizers or pesticides. So what they're saying is they've actually isolated it. So they're saying with their findings published in the scientific journal eLife, the researchers demonstrate that specialized metabolites
metabolites.
Yeah, but they actually forgot a space from the roots. So it looked like metabolites from, so I was trying to read that. It's metabolites space from the roots of the maize plant can bring about an increase in the yields. And I already said that. So this chemical is benzozazanoids. Benzozazanoids. They're natural chemicals which maize plants release through their roots. They change the composition of microorganisms in the soil on the roots and therefore influence the growth of subsequent plants that grow in the soil. So basically, they're depositing things that are helping the microbes that will then change the soil that then the wheat is going to use. So, and it says, in addition to the increased crop, lower levels of infestation by some pests were also observed. And it's like, wait, there's more. You not only get a 4% yield, you get less pests. So obviously with this again is it's going to be like, hey, can we do transgenic into all corn? And can we bump those numbers up to increase the yield even more? But, that's a whole different how you feel about transgenic. For me, I'm all for it if it means less synthetic fertilizers, less pesticides.
What were these changes that they were you kind of glossed over?
4% yield in wheat.
No, you mentioned that there were changes going on in the microbial fauna.
Yeah.
What were those? I mean, that's
I know, Joe. Don't question the scientists. Hold on. Yeah. Let me just see if I can find that. Mm-hmm.
I'd play Jeopardy music if I had it.
You could just say it.
I can say it.
Okay, here it was. It was confirmed that this chemical influenced the community of bacteria and fungi and on maize roots. However, soil nutrients were not altered. Also proved to be particularly persistent in the soil. Okay. So basically, yeah, that's it.
Keep talk amongst yourselves for a minute.
Okay, you're just going to look at that? Yeah. Joe, it makes the microbes happy. And when things are happy, they grow more. Right? So,
You always claim that it's when you're eating a lot of ice cream.
Yeah. I'm happier.
And growing more.
Yeah, shut up. That's just rude. That's just rude. I'll just quote the Berenstain Bears and too much junk food. And Papa Bear was these are growing children, but Papa Bear was growing the wrong way. And I thought that was hilarious. And I always quote that. I'm just growing the wrong way. Don't worry, Joe. When I'm on my backpacking trip, I'm going to just have all the snacks I brought with me. I have phobia of not having food, so I'm packing lots of food. So, and then there's a lot of stops. Are you reading it? Are you finding things?
I'll have to read it later.
Yeah, I know. No one
You're
wants to just
jabbering in the background.
Okay, yeah. Okay. So that's it. That's the news of botany, horticulture, ag for this month of September. And
I thought you were going to do one that focused on the almonds.
Walnuts. Yeah, the
what
walnuts.
Does that look?
You know why I didn't want to do so much? Because I mean, all of this is it comes down to economics.
Yeah.
But yours is strictly economics, and you're just going to go roll with it. And it's for me, I like to hear about the plants and the science. Like, why aren't they growing walnuts? It's either because
why is everybody growing any of the things that you talk about?
I know, but then we dwell into where. Okay, anyways, whatever. Okay, so if you like this, rate and review 5 stars on Spotify. 5 stars on Apple, and leave a nice little review. I like reading those, the nice ones. And tell a friend, share it. And of course, Patreon at Flower Power Garden Hour. If you have a question, Marlene the Plant Lady at gmail.com. On Instagram and Facebook, it's Marlene the Plant Lady. And until next time, everyone, happy gardening.